I met James Bond III, who is the writer-director of it. I met him when we were doing School Days for Spike Lee. James Bond was one of the actors. And, we're always talking. After a day of shooting, you're always going into the bar and sitting down at the bar and talking. And he just kind of mentioned that he had this film that he wanted to do. It was a horror film. He didn't have a script. He had a general idea of what the movie was going to be. And he wanted me to shoot it. And I said, yeah, fine, sure. Usually in conversations like that, you don't think it's actually going to happen. But think about a year later, James called me up and said that he had the money to do this, that he made a deal with a record company. I think it was Hush. I think it was Hush Records, I think.
Yep.
That was owned by the husband of Melba Moore. They were married at that time. And he had a script, and I came on board, and that's how it happened. That's how it started. The first movie I had photographed, shot in '83. It was a movie called Brother from Another Planet. It was released in '84.
John Sayles.
Yeah, the John Sayles
Great
movie.
film. Oh, fantastic.
Did some good business. So I did that. I did a TV series called Tales from the Dark Side. First season and part of the second season. And it was in the second season, later on in that summer, that Spike got the money, or a little bit of money, just very little bit of money to do She's Gotta Have It. Now, I had been Spike's cinematographer in film school in our second and third years. I had shot two of his films in film school, and his graduate thesis film. And after graduating and trying to get jobs, I shot some music videos for him. We were trying to break into the business every way we could. So we were sometimes doing music videos on spec. And, but I did She's Gotta Have It. And then about when that became a hit, I guess it was about a year and a half later, Spike got the money to do School Days. And we shot School Days in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's where I met James Bond III. So yeah, I had been a working cinematographer for a while.
What was what attracted you? You had done to do the right thing. You didn't need Death by Temptation. Why did you do it?
Well, I did Death by Temptation because I love horror films. I love good horror films. I was looking for something in the fantastic genre to do, and the story came along. James didn't have there was a lot of things he had no idea of what he wanted to do with the story. So, and the visuals. So he basically agreed that he would handle the actors and I would handle everything else. So it was a chance to do a horror film, kind of like a neighborhood horror film, because the whole film was shot, I think, within like a 4-block radius in a neighborhood in Brooklyn. And at that time, we were looking at a bunch of other horror films for inspiration. So we were looking at movies like The Hunger, Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, Hellraiser. And, we had brainstorming sessions where we sat down and just threw ideas at each other and did movies. And I had read a book. I'm trying to remember the name of the book, but I read a book. It was a thriller about a guy who is an assassin who has I can't remember if she was Chinese or Japanese, a girlfriend. And she had this erotic thing that she did called, I think it's called The Delight of the Razor, where he had to submit to total control to her, where he would lay down and she would just lightly rub a razor over his body, and the eroticism of that. And I thought that was a great thing to put in our movie, so we did.
The tragedy that occurred, that of all the distributors in the world, you had to have Troma, the last stop on the train. What happened?
Well, I didn't know what happened to the film. I shot it. I also designed a lot of the visual effects in the movie. And then James took it and edited it. And I think not long after that, I think I got involved in shooting Do the Right Thing for Spike. As a matter of fact, some things that I tried filtration wise in Death by Temptation, I wound up using in Do the Right Thing. So in a way, Death by Temptation was a way of testing out some things for me. Had no idea that the film was really going to get released. It was such a low budget film. And there weren't a lot of black films being made at that time. So I didn't know what was going to happen to it. So I went on to another job. And then next thing
it was a hiatus. It's closed down.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. A lot of water under the bridge since then.
Yeah, it closed down.
I think it did close down, and then there were some pickup shots of a beast that came in later. I didn't shoot those.
Who was the cinematographer on the Beast and the climatic explosion that had to match Ernest Dickerson's artistry? Who was the DP on that?
I don't know. I did the climax with the glowing cross. I designed that effect. I designed the whole effect where Kadeem is sucked into the television.
That's an amazing
thing.
It's a beautiful effect. It's an amazing effect too, especially in its day.
Yeah,
I mean, no, I've still never seen anything like that.
We did it very, very simply, actually. I had a shell of a television made, and had instead of the screen, I had a piece of rubber, of white rubber, and then with a 16 millimeter camera, I pre-shot some stuff of Kadeem making funny gestures at the camera, and then later on we put it in a projector and actually front projected it right onto the rubber, so it looked like it was the television screen, and then we had somebody behind the screen pushing it out, making it look like it's alive. To be perfectly honest with you, the basic idea came from Videodrone. So
The basic idea of that effect?
Of that look, of that whole thing. So we were borrowing little bits and pieces from everything, and and I always read about how certain films have been made, and I've always been a visual effects aficionado.
So explain again. How did you do it? You see him in the scene, and then when you go to the TV, it's a projection of him, of Kadeem Hardison. Like
it's a 16 millimeter projection.
So it's not a real projection. No,
it's
right on. It's right on the rubber screen.
Yeah, right on it. Yeah, and it's we were able to actually, like I said, it's rubber, so he was able to play it up to the point where he gets grabbed, and then I think we cut a hole in it, and we had some people on the other side of the screen pulling him in, and then I made sure that for the aftermath, after he gets pulled in, I had a close up of a mouth that's on the screen, and I think it just kind of licks his lips or something. And then we cut away. Then we had the makeup effects guy rig it for all the blood and guts that's supposed to come shooting out, and that's what happened.
It's great. Very nice.
Thank you.
Very beautiful. Now, interestingly enough, one of the most stressful, although I've been one of the more stressful events of my life, we had very little money, and we had to finish your movie. We had to mix it and get reshoot. We had to reshoot some stuff, and James wanted interstitial stuff, and so I had to be the DP on that big scene at the end with that we made that monster thing, and
That was you.
and I was like really paranoid that you'd look at the movie and then you'd say, "Whoa, this is terrible! I'm going to sue those bastards, that cheap Kaufman." But hopefully it was okay then.
Yeah, it cuts in.
So it didn't. We tried to we like deconstructed as best we could your lighting, and tried to imitate it as much as we could. But again, I do my own camera work, but I'm definitely not a master. I'm no Stanley Cortez or Ernest Dickerson. That is for sure. So I was really worried. I mean, I don't worry about too many things, but I was worried about fucking with somebody's art, and when nothing happened, I was like,
Well, if I remember correctly, I think it's a tight close up of the beast, right?
well, there was other stuff in there too, but we tried to keep it as close as we possibly, we tried to keep it as to have the least number of errors as possible.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of water under the bridge since then. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I caught the movie one night on cable and watched it, and I was trying to remember when it came to the ending. I was trying, did I shoot that? Did I? I was trying to figure out what stuff I shot. Then I saw the monsters of women. I didn't shoot that.
Yeah,
No.
no. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, glad it didn't just, I had all sorts of like paranoid, oh my God, the guy's career and the thing, but luckily it ended up okay. The biggest problem we had was the theaters did fine. We did okay in the theaters.
Got good reviews.
Got good reviews.
New York Times gave it a great review.
Yeah, and everywhere the reviews were good. The problem were the video stores. They wouldn't take the video. They were worried that black people would come in and burn the stores. I mean, that was literally the mindset.
Burn down the.
Shapiro Glickenhaus was the distributor, the video distributor, and they were a good company. And we could not, as I said, we couldn't penetrate the hymen of the Times, or the Daily News, or the New York Post. But in any event, Death by Temptation, I really believe is probably the best movie Troma has in its 35 years. It's definitely, like many movies, didn't get its fair shake, but we're re-releasing the DVD, and hopefully, it keeps bringing up, hopefully it keeps attracting fans.
Well, it was made in the spirit of She's Gotta Have It in a way, because She's Gotta Have It was all shot in the same neighborhood. All the locations were places we could just grab the camera and walk down the street. And it was the same thing with Death by Temptation. It was all shot in the Fort Greene section of Brooklyn. I wound up moving into that neighborhood about 2 years later, and everything is all. I think the two bars that we used in the film, they're on the same street. They're almost right across the street from each other.
Still there.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
The homes, the houses. I remember the main brownstone that we used as a house actually belonged to Lawrence Fishburne and his first wife, Hajna. And they became friends when Spike and I met Lawrence Fishburne right after we graduated from NYU, and we were, shooting those music videos, and we bought Larry, as he was known at that time. Now he's Lawrence. Mm-hmm. We bought Mr. Fishburne in to do a video. We tried to do a video of White Lines, the old song White Lines, and we tried to sell it to I think it's Sugar Hill Records, I think the company was, but we knew Lawrence from that, and then Lawrence also worked in School Days, and I think his wife, he or his wife, I think they provided some of the funds for the movie. They definitely provided production services. We had a couple of sets in there at Brownstone in Brooklyn, and shot quite a few days there. Well, everybody was cool. James handled the actors. Being an actor, he knew, he pretty much figured that he could communicate with them best. A lot of the actors were people that we had worked with before, like Bill Nunn had been in School Days. John Canada Terrell had been in She's Gotta Have It. And actually, I first met John Terrell when he was an actor. He played a jazz pianist in one of my films at NYU, one of the ones I directed, not shot. And then we had Kadeem, who had been in School Days.
Now, how did Kadeem? He had a big TV series. How did James get Kadeem?
Well, that came later. I think his TV series came after.
Oh, so there was a pretty heavy hiatus then.
Yeah.
Because we got Kadeem after the series.
I think so. It was like a year and a half between the time we shot and the time you picked it up.
Must have been,
right? Yeah. So Kadeem's series, A Different World, took off around then. Some of the other actors, there was the bartender who was the son of Ossie Davis, Guy Davis, the son of Ossie Davis, OBD, that's Guy Davis. He was a friend. And then some of the other actors were clients of Hush Records. You had Melba Moore, who played the mysterious Obeah woman. And then you had a couple of their stars. I think their biggest singing star at that time was Freddie Jackson. So that's why Freddie was able to come in and do his little fight.
All Over Me was the song, the big song.
So
Great song.
yeah. So James really just kind of called in favors. There was a lot of favors to friends and acquaintances, and I don't know. I guess it was kind of like, I guess you could say it was kind of like the '80s equivalent of a Little Rascals thing. Hey, let's everybody get together and make a movie, and that's what it was.
Was it called Death by Temptation? I think James and came up with that title, or somebody came up with it in post-production. Was it called that?
I don't remember. I don't think that was the original title.
I don't think so.
I don't even remember the title that we made it under.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't think it was. No, I think, if I remember correctly, Death by Temptation came later. I think the hardest part was we didn't have any money, so it was, how are we going to make this cool, and how are we going to do good things and not have the budget for it, So it was a lot of borrowing here and there. A lot of it was, cashing on favors from film school. I think the camera package came from TCS. That was the company that technically managed and took care of and repaired the cameras in film school. I had a good relationship with them. And, they had a rental package. It was a small package, and we were able to get the camera from them. I remember one thing that happened that was pretty wild. And it had actually everything to do with, I don't know, some of the extras. I think it was an extra thing. But, James believed, as I do, that if you're not paying people a lot of money, the best thing you can do is feed them well. So he had a deal with a local restaurant, to provide food for the cast. And one day they had oysters and mussels, in a pasta. It was delicious.
Yeah.
It was really good, but it was with the shells, And all of a sudden, one of the toilets started flooding. It flooded the whole floor of the house. We realized that some idiot had actually taken the shells and they dumped it into the toilet and tried to flush it down the toilet. So
no.
You never know what people do things like that.
Oh, my. So did you have to stop filming? Or?
It was just a mess, yeah. Yeah, we had to move some things around and get out of there.
We would have written that into the script in Troma film.
Another funny story. My key grip was a guy named Marcus Turner. And, we had the dolly track on the truck. And we were shooting in Lawrence Fishburne's house. He goes to the truck and realizes that the dolly track is missing. And he can't figure out where it is. It's obvious that somebody stole some dolly track off the truck. So we kept on shooting. It was a night shoot, and we kept on shooting. And then, we wrapped. And later on that night, he was driving down the street, and he saw a guy standing on the corner with an 8-foot length of dolly track.
No.
Trying to sell it for $20.
Oh, my God. I wish I were there. I would have.
So he made a deal with him. He said, I'll take it for 10. The guy said, okay, it's a deal. So he bought our dolly track back for $10.
Oh.
Everybody had a ball with it. It was, like I said, it's like a bunch of friends getting together and say, hey, let's make a movie. And we did. And, it was the kind of thing where wasn't the kind of thing you could throw money at because we didn't have the money. It was, how can we be inventive? How can we just find ways to make it fun and cool? So, like the special effect. I don't even remember who I borrowed the 16 millimeter projector from, but I borrowed it from somebody, and the Bolex was a camera that I had. I had a Bolex that I bought used, so that's how we were able to get that shot. So,
do you still have your Bolex?
No, I don't know where.
I bought one in 1967. I still have it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Reflex, Bolex Reflex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I never had it serviced. Never had to have it serviced.
They're good cameras.
Yeah, amazing.
They're good cameras.
Can't shoot sync sound, unfortunately.
No.
But who needs sound, right?
Hey,
As long as we have lights.
sound is for wimps.
Exactly.
It's called motion pictures.
Head to talkintroma.com for more trauma history. Also available wherever you listen.